Stuart, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's not turning blue.
Yeah, it probably won't until a little bit of time before it has to
Okay.
charge.
We'll have to think about this before the next meeting, maybe.
Yeah,
plug
now
in
this
and
camera is not, maybe I need to use a different.
It's run out of batteries. We're using the long cables. Drop out of it, go to the short cable.
Oh, maybe that's why it's not good.
Hey, Melanie, can you hear me?
No, it's not that bad.
Don't crash.
No, I think plug it in. Just got it. It's in there. Should work. I think it doesn't need to be switched on. You just plug it in. But it's not appearing right now in my video settings.
We don't have one. We donated a bunch to the ice cream social. We have them for ages for. Yeah, my wife and I both girls about these. We needed two for an event, so I got some. I got to go along a lot. That was fun.
That does sound fun.
Let's see if I can find it. It's not showing up, but maybe if I go to my video settings, it should appear somewhere. Sound. Video. Where are the video settings? Display, is there display?
It's a Mac. I haven't used one.
Yeah,
I get my first one.
I use it, but oh, there it is, display. Well, it's not, but it's not display. It's actually a camera. I need the camera. So camera. It's not. It should just show up, but it's not. Camera. Camera settings. This is just really being slow. Camera, microphone, switch camera. It's not, maybe if I plug it in over here. I don't know why this wouldn't be working, honestly. This has not been an issue before. This camera's been fine in the past, but let's see. I'll switch these around. I don't know. Let's see here. So still not. Oh, what Elgato? Now it works. I had to switch it. No, that didn't work. But this will not work until the blue light turns on over there. You tried the camera extension? Yeah, maybe. I mean, I've just switched ports and it suddenly started working. So go figure. But this camera isn't working. This guy, I have to probably turn back on again. Because I unplugged it. So then the camera's working.
Oh, this watch the video.
Elgato. You? Oh, good.
Yeah, we're gonna our senior heads.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, most of these are working except for that speaker.
It's not awake yet.
It's not awake quite yet. Getting there.
So you did the camera over on
I
the
got
other.
the camera working. I switched the port.
Did you want to give it a try putting the extension in place?
I mean, we could,
It looks like a
make it a little better. So pull this one out and plug it into there.
just to see if yeah, just to see what's
See if there's
right there.
the whole.
Yeah. I did that.
Let's see.
See if the power.
Uh,
No light, no light, no light, no.
Yeah, I think that. I think it's not working.
It could be the runs too long.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of resistance. That's what it's a good heavy cable.
Good eighth weight. Okay, so I'm gonna switch back.
It's not working yet either.
Well, it's working from this port. It wasn't.
There it is. Yeah, it's alive. Maybe we didn't wait long enough, but
Yeah.
that works.
That looks too bad that. But this thing. Oh, there it's going. It's going now. Sweet. Yeah.
Yes.
No. Lots of people. My food's up there. I told you. I was gonna get it earlier this week.
They have a booster or something.
Yeah, the pharmacy is supposed to get it.
I wonder if I need to shut down my Zoom and start it up again in order to see this speaker, because it's on now and it's associated, but Zoom doesn't see it here. I'm thinking I'd have to like shut down Zoom and start it up again. Maybe it won't even matter if nobody shows up hybrid. It'll only show up, oh, wait, audio. Oh, wait, it did show up. It did show up.
I'm gonna be playing material.
Do I have to crank the volume? Because it's now supposedly. It's working.
That's the thing.
Can I use this?
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, testing 1, 2, 3, 4.
I might not even need to move the cable. I just need to
You want to test the mics now?
just 1 second. Would you mind helping me with this table?
Is these are very noisy to try to move yourself.
You want to test one of the mics?
Yeah, sure.
1 2 1 2 1.
You want me to do this one too?
Yeah.
1 1. 1 2.
Try it again. Hold on. Okay. Okay.
1 1.
Do it more.
1 2 1 2. 1 2. Check check. 1 2. Check check.
It is coming out of here, but it's like really faint.
Right now, I just turned the volume.
Okay, so try. Wait. Now go.
Check, 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 check. Check, 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 check.
I can hear it. It's like a delay.
There's a long delay,
Oh, okay.
I guess. Because apparently it did.
Oh, that's hard to talk when it's delayed like that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. But I was being used.
I think it's going through the Zoom. You figured out- Does this go to Bluetooth?
No, no, that's USB.
Unless we did this,
That's USB.
if we do this direct to that, and give it a try.
I mean, it doesn't matter because we're not really using this. This is only for the purpose of like people from Smoke trying to talk to us.
Well, I was setting it up so people.
Oh, you're trying to get the mic to amplify? You're trying to get this to amplify the sound? That, we don't have that set up. I mean, if you wanted to get that going, you're welcome to, but I don't have that happening. We're not doing any amplification.
How do you get out this from this?
Well, I don't know. I have never done that kind of setup. I've never done that setup. I mean, I'm sure that we could do that, but I just don't know how.
Because this will plug into the shit plugger.
Yeah, but I don't know how to set it up.
Oh my gosh. It's my- Well,
If you want to just fiddle around with it, you're welcome to, but I don't know how to do
this
that.
piece I don't understand.
Well, this is a mixer.
A mixer should be able to make input and output.
Well, yeah, sure, it can, but I don't know how to mix anything other than audience input to the Zoom. I don't know how to mix audience input to that speaker.
Just have this come out of one of these ports.
I mean, if you know how to do it, you're welcome to try, but I don't know.
There's a toggle switch.
If you think that that's gonna do that, then you're welcome to try it. I don't know that. I've never set that up before. I've only mixed it into the Zoom app. I've not mixed it directly into the speakers.
It's the wrong. I need male to go into there and the female, so no, that won't work.
I don't know about that.
It looks like it's really. Not good. What we
I
got?
mean, that's outside my league.
Yeah, I'm sure it's capable, but we don't have the right connectors.
Yeah, I mean, and even if we did, I wouldn't really know how to do it. Maybe I could figure it out, but probably not in the 5 minutes we're meeting.
Well, there's a little toggle switch.
That's supposed to switch it?
That might be directional.
Oh, okay.
I didn't realize that you have the wrong, I could plug into that, but not into that.
I mean, it's a small enough room where it doesn't matter that much.
Keep people, saying,
Oh, yeah.
Time when trusting God all the time. You have to make a call.
I didn't see anybody, but maybe they joined and I didn't let them in. Actually, no, it's 70 who started the meeting, so it would have been her fault. Yeah, I don't see anybody trying to get in.
actually, somebody joined at 5.
Who did?
Somebody joined at 5 this afternoon.
Oh.
I was logged into the Brooklyn happening. to check something. Now I go, why is somebody logged in?
Oh, wow. I don't know, but there's.
It's a nice software.
Think back, you just.
Yeah, it's a little, it might be a little bit off center. You can look at this screen and see how you want to have it.
I don't have to get everywhere.
Well, I mean, you have to do your best, I guess. That's pretty good. Isn't it? That might be as good as you can get it. You should maybe do it like an oscillating fan. You could oscillate, you could just stand there and just keep moving it around.
No.
You don't want to do that? No? It should have some kind of homing device so that when it hears someone talking, it like, moves, rotates over. I don't know if you can do it much better than that. I mean, we don't have a lot of space either, so.
If we were to put them at the end of the room, they would fit.
Yeah, I don't know what we can do. Unless you want to like midway through the meeting, switch it so that it's, that way nobody gets left out. What do you think? How do you think that works? Because I don't want to cut one group of people on the end of the table out through the whole meeting. So maybe we could like cut people on one end out part of the meeting, at the other end of the meeting, they'll be cut.
That's the full table. I can't remember.
You think they're all in the meeting? You all in the
Because
image now?
the lady sitting down, we can get a solution about it. Katie, it's Katie, right?
Yeah.
She's going. Yeah, she's at the end of the table.
Oh, you do?
The lady in gray standing
Is
there.
that working?
Yeah, lady in gray.
Yeah.
Yep, there we go.
Oh, okay. All right. Good enough.
I overdressed them. It's too warm.
Oh, you're too warm. Okay.
Yeah.
You were too formally dressed.
No. I put this on because our house is cool.
Oh, got it.
We leave the windows open. It's like 65 in the house. So it's comfortable.
Right.
We haven't had to turn the heater on yet.
Oh, I know. It's really too cold, I don't think. Nobody's joined yet, so it might just be a recorded meeting.
Perfect.
Yeah. Oh, right. Thank you. Yeah. It was. Yeah. People who are remote. We can't amplify the sound. Hopefully it's small enough hopefully it's not going to stop. We have to pick it up. I think there's the issue. Yeah, we have anybody has
I am not, I am here with, it is running, he's the fellow up there in the black t-shirt. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Here's a little bit about as well. I've got stickers and next slide. Stations here.
Swings by you. What else? I do. I'm working with I guess the next neighbor, I live in BAC. On the other side of it. Okay, well.
The colors I am associated
Yeah, it's all right. Leave it at I've never seen her. I'm 61 and she's 74, so it's not gonna be that many more from Today. You're kind of going to they 4 years being the holidays and expecting I thought that was going to go yeah, that's what they do. That's what they are. Yeah. This case is pretty good. But yeah, they have all of this together and they ask some questions that are individual and some questions that they're all supposed to be correct. Sometimes in the they do. One of the things they did, which I really wanted to do, was to ask me the date, the identity, what it is.
Hello.
And, they started off.
Hello.
That, once again, like, we need somebody to think about it. But then I acknowledged that if you just remember years, it was right, the standards campaign was really good to get my calls, but that's just what the standards campaign. So you're not to vote for it. Although he has been refusing my advice that, since he was burning things on money, he should bring this campaign as Jesse got money in, or that, so he hasn't done that, so.
Well, he does that. Well, he doesn't, but everybody says.
They say Jesse the money in.
No, they said he was.
No, I see, Jesse Ventura. I think he-
Well, we're not getting amplification. We're only getting a feed to the outside world. There's no like PA system. This is only the people on the outside.
It was those people, are they still?
Not the reporters, not the editor, the publisher is still.
Hey, Debbie's going to show.
They between these quote entrance interviews with candidates, which they put mine up this morning. And they led with the smart guns thing, but they didn't get any notice on the side.
It's like very.
So let's hear started. And we do not have, as you can tell, we do not have a PA system, so we will ask that everyone pick up. The mics are actually to deliver to those online. And so after a welcome from the Neighborhood Brooklyn Association, raise your hand if you're on the board. And then I will let the moderators introduce themselves, but we're gonna first start with what everyone needs to know. And it is a right choice voting ballot. Now, some of you have heard of before, some of us have not. So, you're probably just gonna take it away.
My name is Garcia. I use either a pronoun. I work at the city of Portland as person official. I'm a communications coordinator on that. But I also do a lot of presentation talking about research.
People online.
Yeah, bring that over.
The first one was the flag. City councilors, for their district and each district for their district.
Mayor and the auditor. People all elect just one mayor, one auditor. We have people online, guys. Awesome, thank you. So
To repeat myself, 3 counselors per district for 12 city council members, 1 auditor and 1 mayor. And this is going to be a little important when we talk about ranked choice voting. We also voted to change our form of government. We went from a commission form of government, which is each of the commissioners oversaw bureaus. So they did the executive and the legislative, to now we're going to go to a council mayor form of government, which means that these 2 functions will be separate. A city administrator will be overseeing all of the bureaus, and the mayor and the city administrator will be working together to work on the budget, whereas councilors will be more on the working more on the legislative agenda for the city. So those are our 3 charter changes that Portlanders approved, and then we have a timeline of when these changes need to happen. I'm going to focus mostly on ranked choice voting today. So, this is an arm workout. Thank you. Okay, so I have my sample ballot here today. One thing that I like to remind Portlanders is that you all do some sort of ranked choice voting every single day. For example, if you go to an ice cream shop or a coffee shop, you go in there with your favorite thing that you're gonna get. So when I go to an ice cream shop, I'm always looking for that chocolate flavor. And so I go in, and if I see that they're out of it, it's not like I leave. I just go and pick my next favorite choice. So that's how we think about ranked choice voting. You're going to pick your favorite candidate. You're gonna put them in rank 1. Thank you so much. You're going to put them in rank 1, and then you're going to think to yourself, hey, who's my next favorite? Rank 2. And you're going to do that until you complete the 6 rankings, or you're also welcome to just rank maybe your top 2, top 3. If you don't feel comfortable being represented by someone, you should not put them in that 6th rank. We've had people say, like, if I really, really don't like someone, should I just put them in rank number 6? No, don't put someone on. When you put someone on your ballot, you're basically saying, I'd be okay with them representing me. So I like to remind folks that it's okay if you don't fill all 6 rankings. Your vote still counts. So one thing that we also like to remind folks, as long as you're just filling 1 rank per candidate, that's all good. If you were to say like candidate a lot and put them in rank 1, 2, 3, that we wouldn't look at your lower ranks. We would just count the highest rank, and then we'd look to whoever you ranked next highest. Another thing we do is say you liked candidate A, B, and C a lot, and you're like, I'm going to put all 3 of them on rank 1. We can't discern voter intent in that situation, so we wouldn't be able to look at your rank 1. We'd have to go to your next highest ranking. So just make sure only 1 candidate per rank. As long as you do one rank per candidate, that's fine. But say, for example, you messed up. I know sometimes it can be a little tricky, or you change your mind and say, hey, actually, candidate C was once my 2nd favorite, but now they're not. Multnomah County actually has some tips on what to do in that situation. The easiest thing to do is actually to like X out that bubble. When Multnomah County counts ballots, it goes through a machine, and if there's something irregular on your ballot, so say your bubble isn't totally filled in or something, the machine will flag that, and then that prompts your ballot to get looked at by 4 people, I think, and they check it. They see if maybe that's your style of filling in your ballot. So some people only do like the outside, they don't fully fill in the middle, or they only fill in the middle. So they'll check just to see, like, is that what you intended to do? And that's what's going to happen in that situation. So you can exit out. You can also call for a replacement ballot. We have the number to call Multnomah County for a replacement ballot. You can also call 311. So that is a city-county partnership, and they're going to be able to help you either request a a new ballot, or you can call to get help with requesting a new ballot. The one thing that they can't do is if you fill out your ballot and then you go and drop it off and then later on call and say, hey, I need a replacement ballot. I don't like how I voted. That's something we can't really do once your ballot is out, or once your ballot is in the ballot drop box. That's it. That's sort of final. So that's my whole spiel on the mistakes and everything. I have, oh, thank you. I think we can stop using that. I also want to talk a little bit about how ranked choice voting works. So this is, yeah.
Yeah, I know that doesn't work. That's only for people at home. So you could project more for us, okay?
Yeah, I'll try. Okay, so ranked choice voting, how does it work? I talked about what happens when you rank your candidates. So the way ranked choice voting works is there's going to be this thing called the threshold, and the threshold is calculated based on the number of seats that are available. I talked about the mayor and auditors races. There's only one seat available, and that means that the winner of that election has to win over 50% of the vote, and that would be its threshold. So when we do a mock election, and I have a QR code to do a mock election, because I think it's a lot easier to understand this when you get to see it. But when we do the mock election, you'll see that there's this little dotted line. That's the threshold, and we're going to use the mayor and auditors races as our example here. And you're going to see that sort of number that needs to get reached in that election for the votes to count. And we look at that first and we check, did any candidate get those votes to reach the threshold? And if the answer is yes, great. That's it. That's our winner. But if the answer is no, no one reached that threshold, then we look at the candidate with the least amount of votes and we eliminate it. So then we look at who people ranked, put in their second ranking, who voted for that candidate. We look at that and their votes get shifted over to their next favorite candidate. And again, we check, did anyone reach the threshold? The answer is no still. Then again, we go back, eliminate the candidate with the least amount of votes, and look at voters' next highest ranking. And we make that keeps happening until someone reaches the threshold. I talked about the city councilors. Their threshold is over 25%. This is based on, in order for, this is again based on the number of seats available. And we've had some questions from people saying 25%, that's not the majority. Why is that the number? This is the number that allows us to prevent from more than 3 people from winning. There's some more information on how this all works on our website. So I'm going to keep talking about portland.gov/vote. You'll hear me mention that website quite a bit, and these flyers all take you to that page. If you go to the box on there that says, what is RCV? And you click there, there's a section that talks about tabulation that goes a little bit more into depth on how it all works and all of the fractions that are needed. So let's go back to if we were electing, if we had a multi-winner ranked choice voting election. And again, we're looking for 3 winners and thinking about that threshold for the 25%. If we, in our election, we again check, has anyone reached that threshold? And if the answer is no, we eliminate the candidate with the least amount of votes. Votes are shifted over. And then if there's a candidate that reaches over that 25% threshold, that candidate is our first winner. So And then if that candidate exceeds that 25%, that is what we call the surplus votes. Sometimes in some presentations, they'll refer to that as that extra. That's the surplus vote. And there's a fraction that we need to take into consideration because we need to put in those surplus votes back into play. So that way we can get our next two winners. So I like to think of it, it is a portion of everyone who ranked that candidate will have a portion of their vote redistributed to their next highest candidate. A lot of people have questions about like, well, how are those extra votes chosen? They're not chosen. It's a portion of everyone's votes. And that fraction is again on our website and it's part of our code. That gets redistributed and then we go back to a round and we go, did anyone else reach that threshold once those surplus votes were redistributed? If the answer is yes, there's our second winner. If the answer is no, we go back, eliminate the candidate with the least amount of votes, check those voters like next highest ranking, and then the next round starts. And then we get three winners. Any questions? I know that it's a little difficult to conceptualize without something, but I really do encourage you to do the mock election here. Right now it's set up to be multi-winner. Yes. Yes. Yes, because that surplus vote could be what determines, hey, there's this next winner. Yeah, and when you do this, you'll see it just happen. It's almost like a half step in between each round. Yeah. Other. Yeah.
Has the city projected how long or what the time frame is for the calculation and for announcing the candidates?
Yeah, excellent question. So just to make sure I got it right, has the city calculated how long it'll take to? If we'll be able to announce results within 48 hours to a week. So I actually have, Multnomah County has been answering this question a lot. And so Multnomah County Elections Division is the place to go. We'll have a redirect link on our website, don't worry, but that is the best place to go. They're saying they will post preliminary results on election day, so November 5th, after 8 p.m. And I'm reading straight from this because I want to make sure I give the most accurate information. What is it? So it's common for Multnomah County to release results for between 50% to 60% of the total ballots cast for the election day in the first results report at 8 p.m. on election day. So there will definitely be a results report at 8 p.m. On November 5th. And then by 6 p.m. on Thursday after election day, so 11/7, that is when Multnomah County typically has more than 90% of the total ballots cast processed. So they're going to keep providing results. We expect, so as more ballots are received and counted, the results may shift, and results should not be considered final until all ballots are counted. So that is the thing that Multnomah County really wants us to stress is just, we're going to release results at 8 p.m. on election day, but just we aren't treating those as final until all ballots are counted. Results do have to be certified by the city in December. I think it's December 2nd. And that's when you can fully consider the election certified. One thing that has been weighing a lot on Multnomah County's mind is news outlets typically try to report on elections just right on election night. And we're making sure to train media outlets on just what it's going to look like. We actually have some tables and everything that we're posting.
Thank you so much. You know, we need to move on, but that was fantastic. And I think I learned that I have to trust the system, right? A little bit of once you rank, then you got to trust what the county's doing. And it sounded good to me. We are going to jump right in. Moderators, introduce yourself. And am I handing the mic to speakers? Is that what I need eye contact? Okay, it's my job.
Yeah, well, we'll use that one. Okay. Hello, my name is Katie. Hello, and I'm Myung. And we're really excited to host so many of the candidates for District 3 here tonight. Thank you all so much for coming. Do you want to explain how the Q&A part is going to go? Well, I'm going to ask the questions and Myung's going to be the timekeeper.
Yeah, so first we'll go through a icebreaker question. You'll have about a minute, so keep it short. And then we'll start the questions and each person will get a unique question and have 3 minutes, up to 3 minutes. And the way you'll know, how about I just kind of hold my phone like this, so you know that means you have about 10 seconds to wrap up your portion. And we'll remind you again if we need to, but basically each question gets up to 3 minutes, and then we'll allot another couple of responses if we have enough time, totaling up to about 5 minutes per question. Okay.
All right. All right, so this is a question for everyone. We'll just go down the table.
Louder? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. We all speak louder because this microphone is only for the people online. And you will each get a microphone to your turn to speak.
So this will be an icebreaker question for everyone, and we'll just start here at the right end of the table and go down. Terry, do you wanna, or let's start down there because you already have the mic. I can't see your name tag. I'm so sorry. So just go ahead and introduce yourself and answer the following question. What neighborhood do you live in and what is one of your favorite things about it?
My name is Crystal Otero, and I'm just going to introduce myself. My name is Crystal Otero, and I grew up in Vancouver, Washington, and I've lived in the city since 2014. I actually live in the Brooklyn neighborhood. I love the Brooklyn neighborhood. I live on 9th and Franklin with my husband and my dog. And my favorite thing is walking my dog in the neighborhood and meeting other people's dogs and going to the Brooklyn Park when it's really hot out and sitting in the shade. Thank you.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm Theo Hathaway Sainer. It's Theo Hathaway Sainer. Is that better? I moved to Portland in 2007 to go to Portland State University and study community development. I live in the Madison South neighborhood. We have a lot of great things up there. We have the Grotto. We have the People's Courts, if you like pickleball. I like Kiiki Ba. It is a Yucatan restaurant that is absolutely fantastic. It's worth the trip.
I'm Dan Gilk, running District 3. I grew up in down in San Diego, but now I live in just north of the train tracks here on Hosford Abernethy with my wife and my daughter. And my favorite part about living there is we live really near to the Clinton Theater. And this little strip of pedestrian-only walk right out front of it. And I really just love that space. I love being away from cars. I love the community of being out in the street with our neighbors all around and seeing the community go by. It's just a very peaceful and vibrant little part of Portland. And that's the kind of thing that I want to capture more of in my campaign. That's what my candidacy kind of represents to me. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Luke Zach. I live in the Buckman neighborhood with my boyfriend. We moved to Portland 3 years ago, and my favorite thing about our neighborhood is one thing that's really important to me is connections with people and community. And I feel like Buckman is a really integral part of the central inner east side that has a lot of spaces for building connection and community, whether that's at Revolution Hall or the PDX, the Portland Night Market, or the new Wonder Love food carts, or any of those things. I just really enjoy going to those places and getting to experience the culture over there.
Hi, everyone. My name is Angelita or Angelita for those of you that speak Spanish. I live in the Kearns neighborhood, and there's a lot of good things that I love about it, but I think something that I really love is that we have 2 free community things. We have the free little tiny libraries where everybody gets to swap books, and I see kids always taking books from those, and that's really fun. And we have a lot of community free fridges. I'm an anti-hunger policy advocate in my day job, so I know how hard it is to get access to fruits and vegetables sometimes, and the free fridges are just maintained by the community. And I think it's so special that neighbor to neighbor, people want to take care of each other and look out for each other in hard times. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Jesse Cornett. I live in the Sunnyside neighborhood. What I like in my neighborhood is far less wholesome than what Angelita likes in hers. I like that I live close enough to a grocery store where I can pretty much treat it like a pantry. And in fact, this morning, as I was getting my first items of the day, the cashier said, "See you in a couple of hours," as I was leaving. Close second is being near the Strexburg holder, though.
Hi, my name is Kelly James. I go by KJ. I use she, her pronouns, and I live in the Foster Powell neighborhood where I am the chair of the neighborhood association there. And one of my favorite things about Foster Powell is the strong sense of community that we have and the alignment between our neighborhood association and our business association, which I know is not always the case, but I'm very proud of the work that we've done together. Thank you.
Hi, Wes. Hi, I'm Rex Burkholder. I live on the boundary between Sunnyside and Buckman, and the neighborhoods fight over whether I'm in their neighborhood or the other one, because we're right on the boundary. I love the things about the city my neighborhood that I love about the city. Easy to get around. I can ride my bike anywhere. I have all sorts of destinations, which of the 5 grocery stores can I get to? We are the envy of people in the world because we have such great convenience and access to things. And my favorite bar is only a half block away. And you can guess why.
Hi, I'm Steve Novak, and I live in the southern end of the Woodstock neighborhood. And I have to say, what I like most about my immediate neighborhood is how tolerant people are of my dog. My dog has this odd habit of he's obsessed with yard work. If we're walking by and somebody's doing yard work, he will sit down and watch them for hours. So I'm constantly telling people, I'm not the voyeur, my dog is a yard work voyeur. And people are very indulgent of that, and I really appreciate it.
Hello, my name is Hartfree Pham. I'm also from the Kearns neighborhood, around 30th and Burnside. Grew up there, born and raised my whole life. Went to MLC across the river and then Benson Polytechnic for high school. Honestly, I'm kind of a curmudgeon, and not many things make me happy. But one of the things about Portland I like is that we're a family town. And when I see families and their kids out and about having fun, it does crack a smile. And kids having fun on the same blocks that I did when I was a kid, it makes my grinchy heart grow a couple of sizes.
Hi, everyone. My name is Philippe. I live in the Laurelhurst neighborhood. I have, obviously the Laurelhurst Park is a treasure. It's a treasure to Portland. It's such a beautiful park. But, I think the thing that I love about the neighborhood most is that exactly what was just talked about. My kids, my 7-year-old, my 11-year-old, they come in from school, they throw their bags in and they're like, we're going out to play. And it's like out of Leave It to Beaver, but without all the weird kind of like 1940s stuff. So, that kind of community and that kind of ability to have, just packs of kids running up and down the street is really a special thing. And it's what brought my young family to Portland. So, it's a great thing and I feel very lucky to have it.
Hi there, I'm Kent Landgraver. I was born in the Selwood neighborhood. I graduated from Lincoln High School, and for the last 41 years, I've lived in Richmond neighborhood. What I like a lot is I got both Hawthorne and Division Street. I'm a foodie. Harlow just moved from Hawthorne to Division, which makes them closer to me. So you can be jealous. Go ahead. Thank you.
Right. Theater voice, project to the back because this isn't amplified. My name is Chris Flannery. I use they, them pronouns. I live in the Montevilla neighborhood. I love the working class roots in Montevilla, and I love learning all the history about how the streetcar came out there and Montevilla as a name. It might be true, it might not be true, but came from Mount Tabor Village, abbreviated on the streetcar. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Daniel DeMello. I live in the Kearns neighborhood, which just today Time Out magazine named the coolest neighborhood in the Western Hemisphere. Something I love about our neighborhood is I believe over on 28th Avenue, we have the highest concentration of pizza joints in the city with 7 pizza joints in 1/4 mile. Please come and buy a slice. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Brian Conley. I moved to Portland in 2011. I'm the father of a trans teen activist, and my wife is an addictions medicine and homeless health doc. She's who I look to for expertise and advice around those issues. I live in Montevilla. I've heard the same thing that my colleague Chris has heard, that it used to be called Mount Tabor Villa is what I'd heard, but maybe Village makes more sense. I don't know if you've been to Montevilla, but standing on Stark and like 80th, 79th, if you're looking west, you can imagine that you're in like a small mountain town, like totally separated from the rest of the city. And I fell in love the first time I was there.
My name's Terry Parker, and I live in the Rose City Park neighborhood, where one of the best things about my neighborhood is I have great neighbors, and the houses don't turn over very fast. I've got neighbors that have been there for 20, 30, 40 years. I've been there a little longer. I grew up in the neighborhood. I went to Madison High School. The other great thing about our neighborhood is down at the end of my street is Rose City Park and Rose City Golf Course. And there's a lot of wildlife that lives there. Thank you.
Awesome. Terry, since you're already holding the mic, I'll start with you if that works for you. Each neighborhood has unique strengths, goals, and challenges. Do you have ideas on how to encourage and facilitate civic engagement with neighborhood boards and business associations?
Well, I am on my neighborhood association board, and I'm on the land use and transportation committee. We had a candidates forum last night, and it was at the German American Society. The room was packed. I think most of the people here will tell you that. I think we have pretty good public relations in our neighborhood. Where we need a little bit better public relations is with PBOT. If you ask me the right question, I'll go into that further.
Awesome, thank you. Would anyone like to directly respond or also answer that question? We've got up to 5 minutes for that one. Okay, great. Kirsten will. Can you pass? Thank you. Can you pass the microphone? Okay. Awesome. Thanks.
I think one way that we can bring, I think one way is to bring the neighborhoods in District 3 together under a strategic plan. So there's 21 neighborhoods in District 3. In total, we have 167,000 people, 74,000 households. Half of those households, about 35,000 households in our district, make below $75,000 a year. I think we can create a strategic plan where we set some livability goals and really focus on encouraging the residents who've lived here a long time not to be displaced as we move forward. The city's about to go through a lot of changes to bring on new housing and urban density. And so I think one way to encourage engagement is by having an overarching strategic plan for our district.
Awesome. Thank you. Would anyone else like to respond to that question? Brian?
I think that it's important to note that there's no way that any one counselor or even any three counselors can know your neighborhood better than you do. And so that's why I've already said repeatedly that in the first 90 days, I'll be calling for other counselors to join me in meeting with as many neighborhood associations as possible, because I think, you know, we need to know what your number one priority is and work to get that done.
Great, thank you. We probably have time for one more response to that one. Hart?
If we want people to come to your party, it has to be a little bit of fun. So these neighborhood associations, maybe just have some activities here. So it's not just talking about politics the whole time. Maybe a little sippy sip of something. I would also explore maybe compulsory voting. And if you didn't vote, you get penalized. Be an interesting way for the city to make money. And if you're getting penalized for not voting, you might be more incentivized to come to a neighborhood meeting to see what's actually going on.
Thank you. All right, the next question is for Theo Hathaway Sainer. Kristen, if you could deliver the mic, thank you. The Brooklyn neighborhood has been cut off to the riverfront by McLaughlin since the 30s, with several promises to connect broken. How would you advocate for Brooklyn's desire to reconnect our neighborhood with direct access to the Willamette riverfront and the Springwater Trail?
That's a good question. I didn't know about this issue. You know, one thing that I did when I first started running was to go on to every neighborhood association's website and, you know, subscribe. I've made an effort to make it to every neighborhood association meeting out of all the 20 different neighborhoods, and hear all the different stories and perspectives of everyone in the district. You know, an issue like this, we have to approach it like anything else by, you know, grassroots organization. I would suggest knocking on some doors, you know, getting support from the entire community, drawing up a plan, bringing it to the city. The new structure of the city government is going to be different than the current one. Right now, all of the commissioners are in charge of different bureaus. Not necessarily because they have that expertise. This new districts, the new counselors will be a little more hands-on, and they'll be able to do a little more, you know, bringing issues from the community to City Hall. And that's the reason that I got involved in doing this. I want to be a conduit, you know, from neighborhoods to City Hall. I work at Portland Community Reinvestment Initiatives. We're an organization that's been around for 30 years, supporting the Black community in the North and Northeast neighborhoods. We build and run affordable housing. We built 150 units in the last 6 years. I want to see more affordable housing in every neighborhood. I'm also on the board of We Shine. We're an organization that builds and operates micro villages to transition people from houselessness into stable housing. We have a 70% success rate of moving people into stable housing. We provide them with wraparound services and give them a chance to get back on their feet. Do I have more time? Let's give it to Rex. You didn't get a chair.
Yeah, you're next. You all have time. Just to let you know a little bit about how things work. I served on the Metro Council 12 years as chair of the Joint Transportation Policy Advisory Committee on Transportation that allocates regional dollars to make things happen, including the Springwater Corridor. The bridges across the Springwater Corridor are there because I advocated and fought for the money for that. How you connect, and Wes brought this up to me, how you connect that is that you have to have, and I think the opportunity is because now we have a shared we'll have a shared oversight of all the different departments, okay? So you have the Springwater down there, you have the Parks Department leasing the new Ross Island or the old Ross Island land. You have access to the Springwater right across 99. How do we get there? There's actually a light there already, but can we get pedestrian ways through the community to get to that light to cross over and also get access to that property? If the city is leasing it, we can make that arrangement and connect and do the work there. Metro funds trail work. This would be a fantastic trail project. to get that connected because we spent millions to get the spring water there. You can't get there from here. And so there are processes that we go through, and I think we don't have to ask you to do the work. You know, you guys can say, here's a problem, and say, well, that's actually not a problem, it's an opportunity. We can make it happen. And I have a lot of experience doing that as an advocate and as an elected official.
Awesome. Thank you. Let's do one more. I think Jesse had.
Go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead, Luke.
It was about the spring water.
You want it, Jesse? Just a couple thoughts about that. It's my understanding that the Brooklyn neighborhood has been promised access to the river on a few 20-year plans over and over again. And it's something that's been kicked down the road, I think longer than any of you would like it to be. And I think that this ties in an issue that's not unique to Brooklyn. I think access to the river and our other resources is something that affects a lot of neighborhoods. And it's also tied into the ongoing investments in more automobile freeways, highways expansion. So it happened here because of McLaughlin. We are looking at the potential impact of expanding I-5 right now as well. But I think that right now we're beginning to reevaluate our relationship with the river and our other resources. We see that in St. John's getting more access to the river with the dock and a lot of reprioritization happening. And I think Rex is absolutely right that this will create a new opportunity with the new city council to reprioritize where we are following through with the budget and with our other partners and to make something like this happen.
Awesome. Thank you. I think that's all the time we have for that question. But just do know that we'll have a little time at the end to mingle with your constituents, potential constituents, and talk about more specific answers if you weren't able to get to them. The next question is for Brian. Brian, what are your thoughts on the Clinton Triangle temporary shelter and other temporary shelters in Portland? What novel approaches to ending houselessness do you have in your campaign?
Yeah, so after attending the Clinton Triangle's annual report, I was happy to see that there was generally positive reception from the community and good evidence of positive impacts from the committee. I don't personally think we need novel approaches to end homelessness. We need city councilors and mayor willing to make ensuring everyone can afford a roof over their head one of their top priorities, and to just demonstrate by investing time and energy needed to solve the upstream constraints and externalities that are preventing us from serving all Portlanders. Currently, there's more than $100 million left over from the 2022 to 23 fiscal year intended for affordable multifamily housing. That money has been allocated, but it's in what we call an expenditure account. That money is waiting for developers to break ground before it's distributed to them. So the Housing Bureau is doing its job. However, there are steps City Council and the mayor could take to accelerate housing construction. We need to stop prioritizing one-time fees for things like system development changes and other barriers. Instead, we need to keep our eyes on the prize. Ongoing revenue and perpetuity that arrives in the form of property taxes, stable, productive workers and business owners, and the overall betterment of our city for everyone. We don't need novel approaches. Unless you believe doing your job, digging the problem, and recognizing you can't afford to go another year without building more housing are novel. I don't think they are. I believe in an accountable, responsible government. And the most basic thing any Portlander should expect, we have to solve these problems, and the first step is a council that listens. Thank you.
Thank you. I saw Philippe's hand first.
For the neighbors, the candidates who RSVP that we had RSVPs from did receive the questions ahead of time. Is that correct?
Yes.
So this was not a plant.
No. I saw Philippe's hand, and you have time. We've got time for a couple more answers.
Thanks so much. You know, in my day job, I'm the Eviction Defense and Reentry Program Manager for the Washington State Office of Civil Legal Aid. I oversee a statewide right to counsel for low-income tenants. I say that because Brian's absolutely right. It's easier to invest in keeping people housed. But I think that something that was in the question that Brian picked up on is novel approaches to shelter. I agree. We do not need novel approaches. We need shelter, and we need to invest in shelter first. I see over and over in our political discourse that we're talking about homelessness as one monolith. I moved from New York City 5 years ago, and in New York, there are over 800,000 homeless individuals and virtually zero unsheltered homeless individuals. And so I think it makes sense not to talk about it in terms of homelessness and not homelessness, but sheltered versus unsheltered. And we're failing almost every metric in sheltering the individuals in our community who don't have shelter. They don't need to, it doesn't need to be a perfect match. We need to invest in shelters and we need to end street camping.
Thank you. Maybe one more. Let's hear from Daniel since we haven't heard from Daniel yet.
Thank you. I am in this race primarily because of the experience I've had over the last couple of years chairing the Joint Office of Homeless Services Community Budget Advisory Committee. For advisory, I'm not in charge of what's actually happening today. We just tell them what they should be doing and they don't usually listen to us. I won't bore you with the dry and frustrating details of that experience. I had an op-ed in the Oregonian published around this time last year. I'd be happy to send it to you. Come grab my card later. But the headline is that this year we went to the city and county and said, look, you're going to spend $70,000 for every single person on our streets in this year alone. Can you commit and say that this plan will lead to at least one fewer people sleeping on our streets? And they could not and would not make that commitment. And I'm a software engineer. I'm an engineering manager by trade. I know that if you want to end unsheltered homelessness, it begins with reducing unsheltered homelessness, which begins with getting at least one fewer people sleeping on our streets. I was initially very skeptical of the Clinton Street Triangle. I had a strong distrust of urban alchemy, but I'm someone who believes results speak for themselves. And as far as I understand from the data we have, the Clinton Street Triangle is not just more effective than the other shelters we have, but it's more effective per dollar spent. I would love to see the city commit first off to ending unsheltered homelessness, which is not a commitment we have made as a city for the last 9 years. But additionally, we need to build 3,000 to 4,000 more shelter units, primarily these pods, in order to fully end street camping. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, this next question is for Kent. What role do you feel the city council has to encourage electrification, as in no more methane or natural gas in all new buildings in Portland, residential and otherwise? How would you support other sustainable practices such as required bike parking, responsibly sourced materials, and planting green canopy to preserve street shade equity?
Well, I have given this some thought, and not because of the question being given to me prior. But I would like to pass an ordinance that has, at least for sure, all of city structures that are being built, that they're going to be pre-wired and have space for renewable energy storage. And I understand that like renewable sources are expensive, and that it may make the building too expensive to put in to electrify it in a sustainable way. But the least we can do is put the space so when the batteries become cheap, we have a place to put them and you just hook them up.
Awesome. Thank you. Would anyone else like to respond to this question? Hart, go for it.
I kind of have a controversial opinion on renewable energy. There's a cost to it, and there's a big human cost. Basically, the only reason we can transition to a renewable energy grid is because of American supremacy. Those batteries that we're talking about, storing all the solar and wind energy, where do those elements come from? 70% of the world's cobalt, which is like the most critical ingredient in those batteries, comes from the Congo. And if you look at artisanal mining in the Congo, you can see what it's done. It's people with their bare hands picking up shards of cobalt in their flip-flops, being guarded by people with AK-47s. So I'm all for going for renewable energy, but just not at the cost of indentured servitude of forsaken souls abroad, you know? And Oregon consumes less energy than 66% of the country. So even if we went to renewables tomorrow, it would not make a huge dent in the fight against climate change. I'm all for climate change. I think we are all Oregonians that love Mother Nature, but
what is the real cost of transitioning to renewables? And also solar might not be a good idea in Oregon. We get 142 days of sunlight in Oregon, which so like half the year, these solar panels aren't going to be working at capacity. You wouldn't put a windmill where it's not windy, so I don't know why we're obsessed with putting solar panels where it's not sunny. If we want to contribute towards the fight against climate change, which I think we all do, we should probably open our eyes to nuclear facilities. But I'm holding my breath for modular nuclear reactors, which could be a huge game changer, but still a prototype.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm going to go with Chris since Chris hasn't gotten to speak yet. Go ahead.
I just want to gently push back on the idea that Oregon's not a great place for solar. Oregon's a fabulous place for solar, especially in small community applications or for your personal home. And that some of the places we can look at for examples are like Germany, who similarly doesn't have as many days of sun, but are able to put a great portion of their grid on renewable energy. So I'm very excited about PCEF, the Portland Clean Energy Fund, and our ability to move forward as a city. We need to upgrade our grid so that we're ready for the renewable energy future. And I think City Council can lead on that.
Awesome. Thank you. I think we're going to move to the next question since we're getting a little close to the end here. And I want to make sure we let everyone answer an individual question. So Philippe, if you're ready, I would love for you to answer the question, how would you support the Portland Police Department, Portland Street Response, and other entities to make our communities and small businesses stronger, safer, and healthier?
Absolutely. And thanks so much for that question. I think that when I'm talking to voters, the two issues I hear about are unsheltered homelessness and public safety. And I've experienced it myself with low-level, stupid property crime stuff where you're spending hours on the phone trying to get someone. And so my background, I'm an attorney with 20 years of socially progressive advocacy and policy experience. I was a public defender in the South Bronx for 7 years. And so when I say that I want to invest in community policing, that's in with full knowledge of what that means, right? We still need accountability. We still need meaningful criminal justice reform. But the reality is for people in Portland, we need to see meaningful public safety response times. I want to see the increased funding for the Portland Street Response Unit, but it needs to be accountable, same way that the Portland Police Bureau needs to be accountable. And we need to invest in a meaningful increase in our public safety infrastructure. We shouldn't have to wait for calls 2 hours to get non-emergency calls, calling back multiple times. And we're not going to thrive as a city until we get there. We're in a kind of a high tax, low service environment. And this is bread and butter of city government. We need to take care of that. We need to address that. And we can do that both with a pro-equity lens and a knowledge of the harms of our criminal legal system on impacted communities. So, I think that it requires nuance and it requires a commitment to community based law enforcement. So, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Angelita?
Thank you. I think this is a really important question, especially in a time where Portland has been struggling with what we do with our police bureau for many years at this point. There's a lot of people that are going to say, we just need to hire more police officers and we just need to throw more money at the problem. And what a lot of people don't realize is that the police bureau for the past 2 election cycles has actually had millions of dollars in a pot of money to hire more police officers, and we have not been able to do so. And part of that is happening because Portlanders do not have the same agreement with the culture of what's happening within the police bureau, the lack of accountability there. And so they are unable to hire Portlanders to work within their own city. Most of our police officers do not even live in the place that they police. So we've also seen through the studies and the pilot programs of Portland Street Response that when that program is fully funded and supported, they're actually alleviating police call load, because the majority of our 911 calls are calls for service or someone who's in need of help. They are not actually calls for violent or active crime. So I think that we should take the additional funding that is being held in the police bureau that they have been unable to use to hire any additional officers for the past 8 years or so, and we should use that money to fully fund Portland Street Response so that we can get people the calls to service that they deserve and alleviate police call load so that they can actually address violent crime, but make sure that we have an unarmed mental health response for the vast majority of calls that are happening through our 911 system. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Steve, go ahead.
So I think that we need more police for some things and maybe less for others. I think that we need to add officers, detectives to investigate property crimes. I have a friend who's got a small business that was burglarized 3 times in a few months, and he was told, we don't really investigate property crimes anymore. That's a problem. It's very demoralizing. On the other hand, I think Annalita is probably right. There's probably still a bunch more calls that the police take, the patrol takes, which aren't about crime and should be taken by Portland Street Response. So we should ask the police department to do more of an analysis of how many of your calls could be taken by Portland Street Response. However, Portland Street Response has a problem, which is that there aren't enough services for them to refer people to. If you look at the outcomes of people that Portland Street Response has talked to, a study PSU did said that, well, 10 of them got permanent homes. 20 of them out of 7,000 people got a permanent healthcare provider. I think that we need to find some money to fund all useful aspects of the public safety system, which includes drug treatment, which includes PSR, includes in some contexts more police. And I have a proposal to do that by taking money out of the prison system. Prison is the least cost-effective way of fighting crime, but prison sentences are free to district attorneys. The state basically says, we will take as many people as you've got and put them in prison that you convict, and that doesn't come at a cost to the county. So I think that we should make a deal with the state where if we use prison less, we get more money for things that actually improve public safety.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Next question is for Jesse. There is at times a disconnect between how the city and the county are approaching issues in Portland. How do you envision improving communications and collaboration between the city and the county and other stakeholders?
Sure, I'm gonna use a tried and true method called being a human. Let me back up just a quick minute though, because what we're talking about, what the core answer of this comes back around to the supposed bad relationship. So first, I'm going to say that I think that people are making money selling advertisements, telling you how bad that relationship is. So let's look beyond those just a little bit and look to the relationships and look to the improvements that have happened in recent years. Look to the fact that over the past year and a half, look to the fact that we're going to have an entirely new form of government, and it is very in Portland, it is very unlikely that the county will hold the sins of an entirely different government ahead of us moving forward. And I think the one thing that all of us should do when we're on city council is work with the county as if they are a partner, not as if they're an adversary. Right now, we kicked the can, the city kicked the can down the road 2 years in a row on an ongoing contract with the Joint Office of Homelessness Services, except this year they decided to pass one, a 3-year contract. Except 3 of the members are also running for mayor currently. One's running for city council. So they decided to do an October 15th look back period. That's pure politics. That's playing for the cameras right before the election, the week that ballots are coming out, when I've knocked on doors all around the district, including this. Your neighbors, you are worried about people who have to live in tents, are worried about the impact those tents are having on individuals, houses and businesses all around the neighborhood. And the city is very invested in playing politics with the county right now on this topic. And I think that myself and I know many of the folks I've had the opportunity to meet over the course of this campaign have the same attitude that I do. We all live in District 3. The county headquarters is in District 3. It's closer to my house in City Hall. There are going to be lots of real in-person communications. And we're going to meet, whether it's physically there or picking up the phone and calling the county chair or a county commissioner, or texting them at night if that's their preference. We're going to meet them where they are. We're going to have the discussions as they want to have them. And we're going to do that because we need to save lives in Portland today.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to respond? Maybe someone who hasn't gotten to speak yet? Okay, Brian, go ahead. Down at the end there.
There are some areas where the county is not picking up slack. There's areas where the city's not picking up slack, but we're mixing all these things up. Joe's has housed 5,000 people in the last year. That's more than any year prior. That part is working. The other thing I wanted to say Oh, right. The other thing is, it was Jesse mentioned that, one of the commissioners is, all the commissioners are running for office. Commissioner Gonzalez has decided that it's more important to track the homeless and to force them to put their names on a list than to give them shelter that they need, right? We've said, okay, we know tents are necessary for bad weather and extreme situations, but in order to let you do that, we're going to put a yellow badge on that tent and we're going to link it to a database so we can track everyone who's gotten that tent. That's not acceptable behavior. And we need a city and a county that are working together and that stop playing politics.
Thank you. I think in the interest of getting through the questions, we should move on, but hang on to that and give people your card. And this isn't the last time we'll all be talking. So the next question is for KJ. As a city council member, how do you plan to support the many small businesses in our communities?
Oh, that's fun because I'm a small business owner. And also I've worked a lot with the local business association in my neighborhood. So one of the things that we've experienced out in Foster Pal, and it's relating to a lot of the stuff that we're talking about. There's a strip of road where there are RVs and campers and also tents. And the businesses that are across the street are unhappy about it because that little park where those folks are camping is the pass-through area where the residents on the other side of the park walk through to get to the brick and mortar stores. So folks are uncomfortable walking through the park. It's sometimes seems unsafe. And the city's response to date has been, well, let's put these giant neon orange blockades in the parking lane so nobody can park their camper there. And then we'll put boulders along the grass strip so that folks can't put their tents there. And we have, in collaboration, the Business Association and the Neighborhood Association said, actually, that's not a good solution for us. What we want to do is activate this park so that all residents who live in Foster Pal and Mount Scott Arleta, which is right across the other side of Foster Road from us, can use this space actively and regularly. We don't need to be blocking the parking for everyone, which is what those barriers would do. And we don't want to block the grass strip because every year we have a summer soiree on our road and we use that space for vendors. So I am very much of the opinion that we need to be actively creating community that engages the spaces, the physical spaces where folks are, and that will open up passageways so that the businesses have foot traffic. Yeah, that's where I'm landed.
Thank you. Dan, go ahead and respond.
Very much agree with everything KJ said as far as activating our public spaces. I would add that similar to that space I mentioned earlier in front of the Clinton Theater, where we have a little car-free zone, I'd like to see more car-free zones. I'd like to see us be able to connect with our community in ways that are walkable, bikeable, and these studies have shown that these sort of walkable strips really enhance small businesses and really like improve their viability even when you take away parking in front of them. It's great for the community, it's great for the business owners, and it really builds a sense of what Portland's all about.
Awesome, thank you. I'm going to move on just so everyone can at least get a direct question asked. Luke, this next question is for you. How will you, as a member of the City Council, advocate for improved alternative transportation options for the city of Portland, particularly for pedestrians and cyclists?
Yeah, absolutely. So transportation is actually one of the core components of my platform. I think multimodal transportation is very important, especially as we're looking to make a greener future for our city and to have complete neighborhoods that are with mixed use, medium density buildings. I know that there's some concern around parking and things like that, but when we improve the capacity of our transit system, that kind of goes hand in hand with connecting the city. So part of my vision is seeing a transportation system that has reduced barriers to use, less cost for use, more safety for use, and then making sure that we can improve the reach and the reliability and just in general improving the infrastructure around it. So that goes for transit, but that's also biking infrastructure, pedestrian infrastructure as well. So I would like to see more investment in separated designated bike and pedestrian routes, as well as physically separated bike routes from automobile traffic as well, and just in general prioritizing the active and multimodal transportation over the convenience and the speed and just the automobile traffic in general.
Awesome. Thank you. Maybe one short response to that. Go ahead, Theo.
Yeah, is everyone familiar with the Frog Ferry? Anyone on the city council would support infrastructure for the Frog Ferry, yes or no? Good to know. All right.
Oh, come on.
Well, the Frog Ferry. All right, the Frog Ferry goes from St. John's to downtown and back. It's kind of a dream, but if you go to their website, it's actually a very plausible idea. It would really cut down a lot of traffic on the bridges between those two neighborhoods and save a lot of carbon in the air. So check it out. The name of the ferry is the Frog Ferry, but it's a boat. Yeah, on the boat. Yeah.
Oh, Ferry. Got it. Okay. It can, maybe we can do both. Okay, thank you. The next question is for Angelita. Oregon's public school performance has been failing. What role do you see the city council playing in improving and strengthening Portland public schools and educational outcomes for children in Portland?
The city council is not in charge of Portland Public Schools curriculum or necessarily the funding that goes towards students. But I think that the most important role that the city council has to play is to make sure that the families that are living in those neighborhoods have affordable rents, affordable housing, that kids have a stable place to grow up in where they're not moving from place to place because the rent keeps getting raised every single year, right? So I think that's what our jurisdiction is with city council and taking care of students. And I think as an anti-hunger policy advocate, that's something I see in my day-to-day work as far as the fact that students don't have time to eat. They don't have free, we don't have universal free lunches in Oregon yet. We're working on that. But I think that the city of Portland can do things like look at what RealPage, an AI software that is being currently investigated by the federal government because landlords have been using that to artificially inflate the cost of rent across cities. Other cities like San Francisco have already looked into banning AI software like that so that we can better regulate the cost of rent. We can also do a lot of things like build affordable housing on land that the city already owns because land is the most expensive part of that process. And the city of Portland does have a lot of empty lots of land and even controversially some golf courses that could be used for that. Me and Steve agree on that one. We're the golf course haters in the room. I'm not, well, I shouldn't say this is on video now, but all right, I'm done talking now.
Awesome, thank you. We're just gonna.
We don't have a golf crisis in the city, we have a homelessness crisis. So I think that's
No, yeah. Okay, like 30-second response, please.
I actually think the city has a vested interest in good quality education because the future of our city are our kids. And that relationship, just like we talk about the relationship, city and county, city and school should have a strong relationship. And we should use our political power to push for fair funding. The city of Portland basically sends our money to rural Oregon. So there's great schools in rural Oregon. They stay open. Our schools get under supported. Also, Portland State. I graduated from Portland State with no loans. Okay, no debt. Today, it's only 16% of Portland State's budget comes from the state. That is a formula for the failure of our community because it's a failure of our kids.
Thank you. All right, the next question is for Chris. How do you plan to represent? How do you plan to represent the interests of BIPOC, low income, and other underrepresented populations in the city of Portland?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm a white person I know, shocking revelation here, but I'm sorry.
I said, what? Sorry, go on.
But it is so important, to understand that I live in a world of privilege, right? So being white, being somebody who has a presentation of a young college, well, maybe not young anymore, but college educated professional, I have advantages in navigating the systems that are all through our city. Whether you're talking about when I was in AmeriCorps and I had to get SNAP benefits, that's food stamps for some of us. I knew who to call. I had the time to take to go to that appointment, and I understood how I could get from one person to the next. Not everybody has those resources, right? Not everybody understands and has the confidence to go into a system like that. And so one thing I do bring is an understanding of navigating those systems as someone who has been low income before. I am very cognizant of my privilege as a white person. And so I want to make sure I take time to meet with different community groups that represent communities of color, as well as other vulnerable and marginalized populations in our city, and to frankly listen. Right? Like I might feel like I have some great ideas and feel like I know a lot, but I'm never going to know everything. And so I think being humble and listening to folks, constituents, when they come to you and say, hey, this is a problem and this is what I need, is going to be essential.
Awesome. Thank you. Would anyone else like to respond to that question? Awesome. Thank you.
I really appreciate your response, Chris, and I think it's important to acknowledge the privilege that a lot of us have in the city. Like I'm a homeowner, I think that's a huge privilege right now as rents increase. I will say District 3 is 76% white. So the percentage of people of color in our district is, it is small. I think one way that the city council can embrace supporting communities of color are trusting the leaders, the trusted community leaders of those communities. And they exist in a lot of different ways, community health workers that know a lot about individual communities, as well as community-based organizations that provide culturally specific services. They often understand what the people that they serve, what their priorities are and what the challenges are. So I think making space for them to come into city council and to make it easier for them to provide their guidance is one way that we can support them, especially finding opportunities for them to represent themselves from District 3 at City Council.
Awesome. We've got just a few more questions. I know we want to have some time for folks to mingle, maybe hopefully about 15 minutes. So I'm just going to do like single response for the next few. Next question's for Dan. The Brooklyn neighborhood and others in Portland are located in the blast zone of Zenith oil trains that run through the Brooklyn Yard. Brooklyn also has always had a very high diesel pollution from the rail yard and surrounding highways and main arteries. How do you plan to support efforts to stop these environmental crises and air pollution?
So there's a few elements to this question. I'll address one, which is the CEI hub that is kind of the beating heart of these trains moving through our communities. And that's not here, it's up in Linton, but that is a very concerning oil depot that is very badly maintained and very dangerous. And it should be city council's, one of their top priorities is to figure out what to do with that. Ideally, shut it down, move it somewhere else that's not in the most populous part of Oregon. Either that or an appropriate risk bonding measure that would make the oil companies pay astronomical amounts of money for the risk that we're taking on by having their stuff there. Second part, as far as emissions go, I'm a huge transit advocate. I think that we have dedicated far too much of our public spaces to cars and to traffic and the ever-growing need for more and more highways and more lanes. I think the only scalable way to grow as a city is going to be through investing in walkable and bikeable cities, walkable and bikeable neighborhoods that are connected with great transit systems that are not just effective and timely, but comfortable and safe to use and enjoyable for the elderly and for families and for the folks who don't right now necessarily feel safe and comfortable using our transit systems. So we really need to like up our game in our existing transit networks.
Awesome, thank you. And then next question's for Steve. This is another transportation question. Our roads are in tough shape with potholes, old trolley tracks coming through the pavement on Milwaukee Avenue. I know this is not unique to Brooklyn. We also have a lack of lighting along important safe routes to school and pedestrian greenways throughout the city. How do you plan to work with PBOT to improve these safety issues?
So I spent 4 years doing this. The city of Portland has, starting like the 1880s, we knew that we needed a local funding source to address the streets, which surrounding jurisdictions had. And the city council just decided, no, we're not going to do that in order to watch the streets rot. Unfortunately, it takes a long time for rotting streets to become evident. So we went through, for instance, the Vera Katz administration watching the streets rot and nobody blamed Vera Katz. We have a $4 billion maintenance backlog. I spent 4 years trying to get a local funding source. Finally, the voters, thank you, passed a 10 cent a gallon gas tax, which provides $20 million a year. It's something, but I said at the time, all we're going to do is slow the bleeding, not stop the bleeding. That gas tax has paved some streets. It has also paid for safe routes to schools all over the city. But we need more. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know where we get $4 billion. And we need to have an honest conversation with the people of the city about the fact that the street network is going to gradually deteriorate to where it's unrecognizable unless we somehow get a vast amount of money. And I don't know how we're going to do that, to be blunt.
All right. Thank you. Who has not been asked a question yet? Daniel, Hart.
No, but it's okay.
I think so we had enough questions for everyone who RSVP'd to answer. So, but I've also let some people who didn't RSVP answer. So there's a list of backup questions, but these were not the questions that we sent out. So these are wild card questions. But Hart, you did respond, so don't worry. I don't mean to, I'm sorry about the. But so is it Crystal? Is that? Yeah. Sorry, I just want to make sure I'm saying it correctly. Please provide an example or examples of how you've navigated a complex bureaucracy to accomplish or help accomplish a meaningful or impactful task.
So one thing about me is that I have over 10 years of experience serving people experiencing homelessness. My career has been dedicated to providing direct service and also policy development. And I currently work at the Joint Office of Homeless Services. And I've worked there for the last 4 years. I was appointed to a small team to help implement the Metro Supportive Housing Services tax dollars. Over the last few years, we have had challenges spending all of that money. And primarily it has to do with building up the infrastructure in our community to spend that money, because we contract about 80% of the funding we receive to community-based organizations who do the hard work of providing the services for people directly. And this last year, we saw that we spent the majority of the money, and we really, as somebody said, we funded 5,000 plus people to move into housing. My primary role has been to develop a regional process for community-based organizations to apply to deliver services in all 3 counties. So that streamlines what they can do to support that. I also have been a part of designing the wage study that was implemented to increase for us to get an understanding of where there were disparities in pay and to work to implement that. And an example of that is we provided a $10 million grant to support those organizations to increase their pay and other amenities for their employees. And I also was essential in the regional coordination between the 3 counties. And so something to know is that in Washington County, they had about $3 million before the Metro Supportive Housing Services measure was passed. So the majority of the people experiencing homelessness in Washington and actually Clackamas County were coming to the city of Portland. And so I was working with a team to do the regional coordination for them to start to bring people out of Multnomah County back into their counties to receive services.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so you did, like you said, you did get to speak a lot, and we haven't heard from Daniel as much, and Rex, no offense, but you didn't RSVP. So you don't get an official question. But we do have, so we'll do one last question, and this one's for Daniel.
All right, Daniel, you're the lucky winner of whatever you want to answer that has not been addressed. You have 3 minutes, and I'm sure you have some things that you're really passionate about, so you get to share with us, but within 3 minutes, please. And something we have not talked about, preferably.
You know, that's probably the hardest question you could ask. The question was, talk about whatever you want to talk about. That hasn't been talked about. I think we've covered a lot of really important ground. I think we've covered the ground that y'all decided was the most important issues in your neighborhood. I want to just quickly tell a story. A few years ago, I was working for a student newspaper, and I discovered that the college at the student newspaper had purchased security cameras that were disguised as smoke detectors and outlet plugs. And I filed a public records lawsuit a year later after waiting for delays and delays and delays to get the footage. And eventually, after a year and a half, this small college police department decided to make a settlement offer, and that's why I can run full time in this campaign. And over the years, I grew up here. I was a punk. I was a bit of an adolescent. I went to the protests that happened here starting in Occupy through 2020. I've been pepper sprayed, I've been tear gassed, I've been beaten with batons and gotten huge welts from beanbag rounds, both attending protests and covering them for small papers. And when I sat down with our police officers, I told them, one of you very well may be the person who pepper sprayed me. But right now, you need our support. And if you mess up, I will hold you accountable. I have that experience holding police officers accountable. I think this is the moment here in Portland where we can bridge our divides and we can come together and work across our significant differences, because overwhelmingly, the issues we're up against are unsheltered homelessness, public safety issues, and drug addiction and mental illness. And I know that if we can address unsheltered homelessness, we will reduce the number of fires we're responding to, because 50% of the fires the fire department is responding to right now are related to unsheltered homelessness. 80% of 911 calls downtown are related to unsheltered homelessness. Half of the people who died as pedestrians on our streets last year were unsheltered and homeless. Half of the homicides last year, either the perpetrator or the victim was someone who is homeless. My partner, a school teacher, could not take their kids to the library down the street from their school because they could not find a route that wasn't blocked by sidewalks. I'm really wanting to focus on unsheltered homelessness, not just because I think we have a moral responsibility to shelter every single person on our streets, but because it's the highest leverage, greatest impact way that we can make real progress on all of these issues. I think far too often, when there's a problem in Portland, government will come out and say, we're going to spend $400 million on this problem. And I don't know about you, but when I come home from the grocery store, I don't tell my partner I bought $100 worth of groceries. I tell my partner I bought the milk, I bought the eggs, I bought the bread. And hopefully I went and shopped at Winco and got twice as much food as I would have going to Whole Foods. That's what I think we need in this new city government. We need a government of Winco shoppers. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Okay, so we wanted to make sure everyone got good airtime. Thank you all to the candidates. Let's give them all another round of applause. We have about 10-ish minutes to, were we gonna do actual Q&A or just mingle?
Do people in the audience some questions? Oh, sounds like some people do. Okay. Let's start over there. I saw.
So, I'm trying to project it. Well, for the people at home. So my question is this, or it's a statement and a question. So of our neighborhoods in Southeast, Richmond, Clinton, or Division Clinton has Division Street. Sunnyside has Belmont. Selwood has 13th, right? Well, but I'm just saying of Southeast, which is what I said. For Brooklyn, we have Milwaukee, which is underdeveloped, and it seems neglected. So I'm going to throw this question. Who here has a vision for bringing retail goods and services, serious businesses, to Milwaukee Avenue, my neighborhood? Want to be able to buy some shoes. I want to be able to buy groceries. I want to be able to have a cocktail and a nice date night that's not in a rundown place. Anyone?
You know, what you need is a density of people, right? Businesses need customers, right? And I think I remember back from the days when we were looking at the Region 2040 plan with the Coalition of Livable Future. What do you need? For a grocery store, you need 3,000 people within a half mile. Okay, you don't get retail operations unless you have people. So I think the answer would be, are you interested in having Milwaukee Avenue become a row of 4 to 6 story buildings down the way? That's what's happening in inner city in Belmont. It's happening on Hawthorne. You know, that's what brings business. You know, you're not going to open a shop and have no one show up. So again, it's how you design the community.
Dan. And then we'll do another question. We'll just keep these short, like a minute. Yours was perfect, Rex.
Sure.
Good job.
I totally agree. I also embrace density as the solution to getting exciting things in our neighborhoods. Might I also add, though, I think 17th might be an option as well, since it has max access right there. That could, I think, that tying in our existing transit infrastructure into new neighborhood developments is a potentially much cheaper option than building new transit infrastructure where we want something new now. So that's something I think about a lot, is building stuff where we already have transit infrastructure.
Awesome. Thank you. Actually, we're just doing 2 responses to that one. Sorry.
I
But
have a
if you
great
can fill
response.
out afterwards, then
She's got a great response. Okay, next.
Corden. And you can just use this mic if you want. Or, oh, no, here you go. Okay.
Okay, thanks. Daniel, you mentioned a proposed solution was building 40,000 small, 4,000. Okay. And when you did, Brian was shaking his head like this, which I thought was really interesting. And Brian, you think that Renee Gonzalez's proposal of tracking campers with some kind of tag on the tent is untenable, right? Daniel, where did you get your number from? Like, we obviously don't have a good tracking system. And Brian, if that's untenable, what do you think would be the best way to get data on how many how many unsheltered homeless people we have? Yeah.
No, that 4,000 number is a rough number coming from the point in time count from the joint office. Now, if we overshoot and we have too much shelter, that's great. Right. When I sat down with our firefighters and our EMTs and their union, I'm proud to have earned their support. I was joking, but I'm serious that I want to see firefighters go take a shift and sit at the firehouse watching TV. Right. Ideally, you know, in a building like this, we have an AED and hopefully it's never been used, but it's there and ready to go. Right. I would love to have way too much shelter so that when there's a wildfire on the West Hills, when the CEI hub, something God forbid happens there, when there's an earthquake, that we are ready to go and able to shelter people. Because when the earthquake happens and we have 100,000 homeless, if we haven't been able to solve 6,000 homeless over the last 9 years, I have no idea how we're going to solve that problem at that point. If we are undershooting, it'll be very obvious because there'll be people left on the street. And then we know we'll have to get more. A shelter bed is not just sheltering someone. At the Clinton Street Triangle, every bed there has turnover on average every 8 months, and half the people go back to homelessness, but half the people get housed. So on average, every bed means that you're not just sheltering someone that year, but you're also making sure that you're getting one more person able to take that next step in that journey. And so once we get to 100% capacity, the next year we'll only need 75%. So 4,000, if I'm wrong, then that's great. We know we need to build more or less.
Yeah, so stuck on something. Appreciate that question because Daniel and I have been talking about this like question of 3,000 versus 4,000 shelters. I think that the devil's really in the details, right? So Arbor Lodge has had like a fabulous renovation. Like there was a little bit of news that came out that didn't show the actual pictures of the lodge, but the new pictures, like it looks really great. It looks like really what a shelter should be if we need to have a shelter, but it costs $10 million. And according to Metro's numbers, they built, I think, 5,000 units of housing for $500 million, right, over the last like 8 years. So we want to spend $10 million on a temporary shelter rather than build 100 units of housing, right? And I think we have to do some of each. And that's really the question for me. What I worry about when I hear 3,000 to 4,000 shelter beds, number one, are they actually beds or are they mats, right? And number two, what are we going to do with those facilities down the road? And is that the right facility? I think that the safe rest villages are a really good model. I actually talked to some people in Brooklyn about, you guys have like 3 lots that are owned by TriMet that you all have been trying to get community gardens set up, right? And I think that that would be a great transition all over the city. We have empty lots and lots that are owned by the city, owned by TriMet. We could see those as we set up these safe rest villages. Once we've built enough housing and we don't need as many, then we look to convert those into parks, gardens, what have you, right? And so that's really the question for me. It's just about questions of money and what's the best priority. Where do you want to put them? As far as the tents, the experts tell me in housing, we have a by name count currently, right? And creating a barrier to getting a resource based on signing up to be an attract is a barrier to getting a resource. So it's not something that we need, and it is something that will reduce people using the resources.
Awesome. Thank you. Who else had I saw a couple other hands up. All right. New York Cat. Go Yankees.
First of all, thank you so much for being here, and I think it was very informative, and it's good to see faces of the people that are going to be representing our good city. One quick question, are the candidates for mayor here available? No, okay. I thought they were. So one thing I've noticed, a topic that's quite common is the homelessness situation. And it's epidemic, of course, throughout the country. There are other countries that have solved that problem. And I encourage you to do some research. One of those is China and one Japan. But I have 2 questions, I think. One is, of course, the people that are homeless need to be provided with some type of shelter. But we have to ask ourselves, what is the root cause of homelessness? And I've done extensive research, and I've come up with a common denominators. One of those is financial, but that's a fairly small amount. I don't know, 10, 15% perhaps. The other ones are drug and alcohol addictions. That's by far the most prominent. And the third one is mental illness. So I think in conjunction with homelessness and taking care of that, we also have to be attentive to the social services. Otherwise, they're going to be back out on the streets. And that's a fact. Also, just one other thing. How are we going to address getting these people off the streets? Because many of them, and I've talked to them, they don't want to be controlled. They like their freedom. They like their random lifestyles and the chaos that they've caused in society. So thank you.
It's a good article in the Willamette Week last year. And just by background, by day, I'm the policy and advocacy director for a statewide recovery nonprofit called Oregon Recovers. I work in drug and alcohol policy by day. There was a great story in Willamette Week last year that reported on the most recent study out of many studies that showed the number one cause of affordable housing, the number one cause of homelessness in America is the lack of affordable housing. Plain and simple. If it were poverty, if it were finances, Detroit wouldn't exist. If it were drugs, the state of West Virginia would be one big homelessness camp. It's lack of affordable housing, plain and simple. And that's what we have to do to address the root cause of. We have to put the 4 walls around to create the 3,000 or 4,000 or whatever unit it is, and the 1 bedroom and the 2 bedroom and the larger houses for the larger families. But it's not addiction. It's just not. Sorry, sir.
I am a technical expert in designing homeless services. And what I can tell you about our region is that between 35 and 40,000 people in our region experience homelessness during the year. The majority of those folks are able to make it work and figure out a plan. So they don't ever enter homeless services. They don't seek services. Then we have about 11,000 people that do experience homelessness. This is the current number, and they are seeking services, county services. Something to know is that, for example, we use rent assistance as one thing we do to support people to exit homelessness. Well, that intervention happened after the 2008 housing crisis. So that was a specific intervention that was designed for people who had lost their homes, and they didn't need a lot of social support. They really just needed, 1 to 2 years of rent assistance to get them back on their feet. So part of homelessness has to do with what is the current reasons for why things are happening. In Multnomah County, it is a housing crisis. So we have 6,000 people, which is, I think, the number that's been quoted, who are experiencing what's called chronic homelessness. What that means is somebody's been outside experiencing homelessness for at least 1 year, they have a disability, and they make 0 to 30% of the area median income. That's that 6,000 number. Those folks are the hardest to serve. And what I think we see now is because they have been without housing for so long, that it is very challenging to support them to enter back into shelter and housing. So this is a unique situation that we're dealing with right now, and it's going to take unique supports. What I will just say about the task site is we're spending about $5 million for 200 folks. And those tiny homes are not homes. They're about 100 square feet. Shelter staff can enter that at any time, 24 hours a day. We don't have any city or state regulations for mass sheltering sites. We don't really know what the quality of life is. And those are important things to think about as we consider scaling up. And I'll just add one more thing. New York City, they do have an ordinance where everybody is supposed to have access to shelter. And it primarily has to do with the winters in New York. So it's part of that, what motivated that was not turning anyone away when you have that really cold weather. The challenge in New York City right now is they spend, between $1 and $3 billion on shelter, and they are in a really challenging position because then they don't have that money for housing. And so as we scale up shelter, we are doing a trade-off against housing, and it's something we need to think about.
Thank you. So just to give people just a little quick thing before we take maybe 1 or 2 more questions, we do have the space till 9, but if folks need to head out, feel free. Thank you everyone for coming, but we do want to take at least 1 more question from the audience.
So Katie, we had a couple people a couple more people really wanted to respond to this, but you want to move on to another question.
Well, I think we were trying to limit responses a little bit, and then hopefully in the mingling opportunity, you can connect with the person who answered the question.
Pardon?
It's still 8:30, but we have the space till 9. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Well, we can just move on then to just a little bit of a bio break for people who need it, and then mingling.
Okay, just sorry, I missed that. So are we ending the Q&A at 8:35? And then we're having
Yes.
a social mingle. Is that what's
Yes,
happening?
and if people have questions, still feel free to connect with candidates after they've had a break if they need it.
Oh, awesome. Okay, one more round of applause. Woo! We're